Oh, I'm okay.
Cool, and we are recording. So talk about how you see trauma-informed care, how you've experienced it with refugees, things that you are aware of that are helpful. Let's start with helpful. What are some of the positives? Things that you're doing or practicing?
I think one significant thing in the school systems is when a child is acting out behaviors, disruptive behaviors, if the school is able to see, and at times I have seen it work well, that disruptive behavior isn't just oppositional defiance. It's not just ADHD or conduct disorder type symptoms. It can be perceived as and better understood through a trauma lens. So being able to get to know the family better, hear their story. I think the challenge is having them being able to share the extent of the trauma that might be affecting that child and the child's own ability to share what they're affected by. But where that is happening, I think that is helping kids be able to trust the school systems better and relate to teachers better, staff and administrators in schools better, and have better compliance in the classroom settings.
Yeah, and something that's been helpful for me in this position, I've only been here for a few months, but understanding that survival mentality is really prominent in a lot of behaviors and a lot of like benefit seeking, within our organization. People will come in and say that, they can't pay their rent, they don't have food, and all of this, the story that as a mental health coordinator, I'm very open to hearing and want to help, and then I realize they have all the resources they need, so where is this behavior coming from, and understanding that it is a survival mentality. They are surviving the way they know how, and to understand that and to be compassionate towards that rather than, I think caseworkers often see a lot of that, and it's a little easier to say, oh, they're lying, and they are, but why? What are they seeking that they're not getting? And so being willing to uncover that and get to the bottom of that, I feel is really important and a big part of what I do as a mental health coordinator, but also our staff. We try to see the full picture of what's going on rather than just the primary behavior or the surface behavior.
Well, and I find a real sense of relief in being able to connect to people and build a stronger relationship from the get-go, just using psychoeducation and say, wow, you have done amazing things to survive. This is what your body's still doing. This is awesome. This is great. Because that's not what people are normally hearing. They're normally hearing about how dysfunctional they're being and this is not okay. And you don't, you're just stop thinking about it. But just really sitting down and talking about, wow, this has been so important to you and this is so great. And we don't ever want to take that away. We just want to build on to, because people they don't see it as a strength. And so allowing people to see the strengths they have and starting out from that perspective allowed you to then, help them adapt to a different environment, and being able to then change some of those behaviors or, adapt them in a different way that doesn't cause as many symptoms.
Yeah, it really helps to build on coping mechanisms that they have developed so that it helps to inform the other people that are working with them, and they can understand why this person might be having trouble learning English or why they might be struggling to adapt to American life because of not only what they've been through, come here, but the trauma they experienced beforehand.
Yeah, and I think, it helps with compliance too, because people feel that relief of, this is a place where somebody gets what this means to me. And there's just that, I don't have to be as on guard. It's like that kind of helps that initial wall come down a little bit. Just, I can just sit here and breathe for a minute. This person gets it. So
I think trauma-informed care also helps with providers to be able to be more aware of what in their environment is expressing, messages of safety for their clients that they're working for. They're more aware of what's going on around them, and whether it's the local neighborhood or community context, also within the sites, the buildings that they have. Thinking about ways that they can help clients and individuals feel safe, families, individuals, children. And that means different things to different kids and families or adults. I think just making places more friendly and any type of a barrier, I think, when we think about triggers and things like that, barriers to receiving services, barriers to being able to express oneself, I think those are the things that are important that trauma-informed care can help eliminate and prevent from becoming issues that clients are having to deal with on their own. And when they feel like there's a team around them that's aware of it as well, they're much more, they're able to be more open about addressing those issues. I think there's an appreciation that they have for the providers when they see that, okay, something's being done even ahead of them being able to or having to express the need for it.
Yeah, I feel like it also affects the way the words, the specific words we use when we're asking questions about trauma. I had a client recently who I was in the therapy session with her and her son, and the therapist asked if he had ever witnessed anything upsetting. She says, no, of course not, you know. Later we learned he had witnessed murders. You know, he had witnessed the murder of an uncle. So what is upsetting? You know, in that situation, they had seen so much that how would they decipher what was upsetting and what wasn't? You know, it was all upsetting, but it was also kind of normal. So, you know, understanding that we're not getting the full picture when we ask questions the way we're used to asking them. So we have to ask questions in a different way. And also understanding that people's affect or the way they're presenting, you know, is not the way they feel a lot of times. So yes, they're smiling, absolutely, but there's severe domestic violence going on at home, which we found out, you know. And yeah, you ask her how she is, she's good, big smiles, you know. But understanding that we've got to dig deeper. We really have to dig deeper and wait and listen so that we're getting past, you know, of course she's smiling. She wants everything to be okay. She wants everyone to think everything is okay. That is her survival, right? Her survival is smiling. So anyway, just understanding the complexities and the different deeper layers of how people are surviving in their daily life.
Managed care has affected things as well in terms of being able to provide effective trauma treatment, I think, because you don't have the time as much to spend with the clients to really get to know their story. Especially early on, my experience has been in evaluation, you only get paid for so much time, and so you lose money if you're trying to stay afloat as an organization and meet your expectations from a productivity standard. But what would be most beneficial to that family and that individual would be spending more time with them and showing that you're interested and you want to know more, you want to go deeper into certain areas, being able to ask those specific questions, but that takes more time too.
Yeah.
Especially when you add the interpreter on top of that and everything, there's not that freedom and leeway to be able to engage with the clients to the level that is always needed, especially early on.
Something I've noticed, kind of going back to what you were saying, Heather, about just knowing how to talk about things and ask things. And I've noticed, like, at times, when I see the smiling, when I see the survival, I'm holding it together, being able to shift into, you know, physiological kinds of things. So you're hearing these words of everything's great, wonderful. Your breathing's a little shallow. Did you notice that? Oh yeah, and being able to then talk about something that's sort of outside the events that happen, but that's still being experienced, and that allows like a whole nother window to open up about, this is going on. And again, then you don't have to necessarily go into some of those details. And again, I think for people just like, yeah, somebody's hearing what's going on. And they're seeing without me having to break open the shield that's
Yeah.
protecting me,
Yeah.
but somebody's still noticing it and witnessing that is a really powerful, I think, thing for me in terms of shifting how I've asked about things and what I do in interviews and sessions.
Because like you mentioned, people don't really realize how much the trauma affects their whole body.
Right.
So being able to bring that piece in is really good for both psychoeducation and to help them to start to deal with it in a better way.
Well, and then we can talk about, my stomach feels really tight. Okay, let's talk about that. Let's not talk about what we're not going to go into what you came out of or what you've come through yet. Let's just work on, that feeling of my food just is really heavy, or I've got this weight, and then that allows, little by little, it allows a much more controlled entrance into working with what's going on without it feeling like a traumatization of having to relive and just pull it all out there, so.
That's good. Is there any techniques or any particular things that come to mind that are barriers or that work really well? You did a little bit of that.
One of the barriers is when working with families and systems, not every piece of the system or family is ready to move at the same pace or as far as the next. And thinking whether it's generationally or just even within one subset of the family structure, one sibling might be further along than another in their experience and what they're willing to do. But yet, for so many of these families, they deal with things in that system, that family structure. So helping the family progress as a unit as opposed to just the individual, but also being able to think about, okay, when is it appropriate to make that shift from a systems perspective to just the individual, and helping that individual advance because they're ready and they're being held back in some sense. It's a balance, it's a tricky balance to manage.
Great. Okay.